Hey, Sens fans, welcome to season 5, episode 1 of the Senstennial Podcast, a member of the Hockey Podcast Network. And today we're excited to welcome back a special guest to our show, and that's TSN's Jamie McLennan. Welcome back to the show, and thanks for helping us kick off the 5th season of our podcast.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. So it's hopefully my lighting is good. I'm kind of all over the map. I see these lights.
Beautiful.
They're all good. But yeah, it's awesome. I hope you guys had a great summer.
We did. We took a nice
Yeah.
little break, but we'll get to it later. But the Jake Sanderson news kind of flung us back to the recording studios. But I mean, we haven't talked to you since February, and a lot has happened for the Sens since then. All of it really taking place over the course of the summer. So we'll kind of kick it off briefly talking about Michael Andlauer, essentially winning the bid. I know it hasn't closed quite yet, but it looks like the NHL is saying that by next week, Michael Andlauer will officially have the keys to the Ottawa Senators. He's already made a few, it seems like influenced, maybe is a better choice of words, a few front office decisions. So some analytics people coming in. And I just kind of wanted you to give your thoughts on what you think the impact of Michael Andlauer will be on the Ottawa Senators.
Well, instead of looking back, because Eugene Melnick was such a passionate owner, and with his daughters being involved, and his passing, and that sometimes you get a new owner. It's almost like a new coach, a new GM. It's like a breath of fresh air, or even just a different outlook. So, by all accounts, I've never met Mr. Andlauer, but by all accounts, he's a great guy, great hockey guy. Surrounds himself with really good people. You mentioned some of the moves already, so he's going to want to put his stamp on the organization. But I wouldn't. I've been telling people this, and I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I don't think it's sweeping change. If I was to take over or buy an organization or buy a restaurant or buy something, what you need to do is see what you have,
Yeah.
and and then you can methodically work through and go, okay, this is working really well. I like this, I like that. Oh, we need a little bit more resources here. And it sounds like adding analytics department, beefing that up into a situation, adding more coaches, maybe more depth. You've got an owner that right now he wants to be proactive and add money into the organization in areas where he feels he can help. So I think this is a really positive thing. There's nothing negative to come out of it. Obviously, the timeline, everyone's like, okay, let's get this going, type of thing. But ultimately, there will be some trial and error for a new owner as far as taking a look. And I think again, I come back to it. Sens fans are probably like, okay, well, you got to do this, you got to do that. Well, he might have a different perspective. I know in talking to other general managers that have come into a new situation this year, whether it's Brad Treliving or Craig Conroy or guys like that who are in situations that they're taking over, they're putting their stamp on their organization. So Andlauer is going to do the same thing, put a stamp on his organization, but it might take a little bit of time. But I think that move is obviously so good for the league, so good for Sens Nation, because he's buying a team right now that is on the upswing, and so there's some really good things ahead for the organization. So it might be the perfect time for him to kind of jump on board and then help steer the ship in the right direction too.
Yeah. And there was recently a season ticket holders event that he just so happened to be at. And gosh, he just seems like a really likable guy. He says all the right
Yeah.
things. And when Ian Mendez put out the article about who Michael Andlauer is, and I think it was Mackenzie Entwistle of Chicago, like he said, he was so involved in such positive ways, and it just like it got me really excited because as Sens fans, we had Eugene Melnick, and for a bit of a time there, it was pretty dark.
Yeah.
So having the excitement, having Michael Andlauer, who has the track record from his time with the Habs, I think every Sens fan is in agreement. Just Greg, get this sail over.
Yeah, get it done. And then let's see what happens here with this group on the ice. And I know there's lots of speculation, always going to bring in his guys at manager position, scouting or coaching and that. Again, I don't think there's a rush to do anything. This team, I mean, the rush is on the ice. You've got to have a good start, like really. And that's nothing the owner can control. The owner's writing the checks. Pierre Dorian on paper has put together a pretty darn good team. So let's see how you guys would know this maybe just as much as me. I just got my color schedule here, so I'm highlighting stuff. But I want to say 13 of 17 or something like that. They're at home to start the season. It's something like it's a really heavy home schedule, which, as you know, in the last 2-3 years, they've been dreadful to start the season. I feel like there's been times where it's mid-November. I'm like, God, they're 8 points out of this playoff spot right now. And it's it's ugly and couldn't get a save here, couldn't get a big play, injuries, inconsistencies. If anything, the organization, those players need a good start. And if you've got a favorable schedule, and I mean favorable by being home ice, that's something they've got to focus on. So that's, the owner can't control that, but you look at the team and the way they've built and the expectations, I've got big expectations for them. I've said this on my show. I think they have to be a playoff team, and I think they are a playoff team. But the question is, in the Atlantic, in the Eastern Conference, who's coming out, right? So you're gonna have you're gonna end a fight every night. So it'll be very interesting to see how it unfolds.
And Jamie, just off the cuff, who's coming out?
Oof, okay, so I can make the argument that Boston's not going to be as good. Obviously, not even just Bergeron and Krejci. That's a culture change, right? Yeah. That's your captain. So you've lost Chara and Bergeron, in recent times. We'll call it the last 5 years. Those were the head of the snake there. So that's going to be a big. So, is Boston going to be a 60-win team? No. I think we'd all put money on that. So giving those points back, Toronto's a different built team. They're still a very good team, but they're a little bit more aggressive, a little bit. How's that going to translate? Detroit got better. I think Buffalo and Ottawa got better just through osmosis, where their young guys are going to take another step, right? I can't tell you who's coming out because, I mean, is Tampa going to be better with I was talking to I think Frank Corrado today. We were just BSing about Vasilevsky, and Vasilevsky's comments after they lost to Toronto. This guy hasn't really had an off season in 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he said, the silver lining of losing is I'm going to have a full summer to work out and rejuvenate my body.
Yeah.
So you get a core there. That's, Hedman didn't have his best season. Kucherov's a great player. You give these guys full rest.
Mm-hmm.
Tampa might be right up there. Does Florida take a step back, or are they a team that gets, galvanized by, hey, we made it to the finals last year? Pittsburgh, with all the moves that Dubas has made, you look over on that other side, they missed the playoffs. Are they a playoff team? Who takes that step back? There's just so many.
Yeah.
There's not really, other than the Montreal Canadiens, where we all think, okay, they're in a rebuild. I think it's going to be fascinating this year, where the playoff race, if I had to predict one thing, and this is why I'm not predicting who's in, who's out, other than I am choosing the Sens to make it, is there's going to be a team that makes it on the last day of the season, because it's it's not going to be. It was 2 years ago. It was in the Atlantic, there was 3 teams at the top, 3 teams at the bottom, whatever. And it was just that separation. And we saw last year, a closeness. And then I think this year it's going to be really close. So you might not see a team that has 115, 120 points. They might all be bunched up in that 90 to 100 points. So it might come down to health. obviously, and then it'll come down to who's playing best. So, but I do, and I am biased. Obviously, I'm around the team a lot and care for the guys and all of that. But I do think if somebody had to say, like, the Sens a playoff team, yes or no, for me, they're yes, but I can't tell you who's coming out. It'll be fascinating for them to battle that out.
I love it. The proclamation of the Senators are making the playoffs this year.
Well, I think at some point they have to, and this is you turn the corner, and I look at this roster. If they're healthy and if the guys, continue to progress, like the Stützle go to 100 points, and even if he stays at 90, it's still 90 very valuable points. Is Josh Norris going to bite some of that, some of the some of the power play time, stuff like that? But you need a healthy Josh Norris. How does Tarasenko fit in right away? Is he a second power play guy, trigger guy? Giroux's another year older, but Giroux, I think we all were expecting Giroux to kind of be a second tier player last year, and he was front and center. So even if some of the younger guys force him to be a second tier guy, he's one of the most competitive athletes I've ever been around. So Claude Giroux's not going to just accept like, oh, hey, I'll be a 40-point guy and fade off into the sunset. He wants to be right in the middle of it. So even if he drops, off the top of my head, I can't remember what he had for points, but I want to
75, I think.
Yeah, I thought it was 75, 80. If he's 65, he's still contributing and a big part of it. So, and Jake Sanderson after a full season, like what's he going to look like? A healthy Artem Zub. I thought the Zub injury last year really hurt them, like just from the stability point. So there's so many things where it's like, okay, what if or coulda, shoulda, and all that.
Yeah.
Eventually they're going to have a year where that kind of things click, and you're like, okay, this is what it's supposed to look like. So that's what I'm expecting out of them this year.
And it feels like we haven't had a lot of clicking like that, especially injuries. And I think one of the big dark horses that is super important to this team going forward is the newly acquired $20 million guy in Joonas Korpisalo. And what did you think of that signing? Because we see on the wall you were an NHL goalie.
Well, I mean, I joke about my career. I was proud of it, but I knew what I was as a player too. So, if anything, I thought it was a brilliant move, because I think if Tristan Jarry was going back to Pittsburgh, which we all found out that he was going, and I'm a big Tristan Jarry guy, Korpisalo was the best goalie available. So, I think looking at that, having Pierre Dorion grab him wanting to come, him wanting to sign term, like, yes, he got paid. And everyone's going to point, okay, well, Jack Campbell got paid and it didn't work out. Okay, I get that. You're right. But you know what? The contract's not over in Edmonton. I expect Jack Campbell to, bounce back. Yeah. So I look at, you can't forget that Anton Forsberg's there. Now, what's his health going to be like, with the both knees? But if he's there to push for minutes, all of a sudden you've got a good two-headed monster there that can fight. So I don't expect Korpisalo to be a 65-game starter and be, a standalone guy. There's 8 of those in the league, maybe 7 of them with, Demko, Markstrom, you go down the line, Shesterkin, guys like that, Vasilevsky. So if he's a 50-game starter and Forsberg's a 30-game starter, we'll call rounding up, rounding down, and they're battling for the net, that's what you want, is two guys, 2 experienced guys too. That's no slight on Sogard and the youngsters that had to roll through. What was it, 7 goalies last year?
Yeah.
Like, it was ridiculous. The Dylan Ferguson stands on his head in Pittsburgh, but the kid was, he was in the coast like not that long ago. So they had to cycle through. It gives Sogard an opportunity to continue to grow into his body, to continue to get confidence, to be healthy, because he's had health issues too. So for me, you've got 2 not older, but veteran guys that if they're healthy, it's like, okay, go play it. Who wants the net tonight? Go get, have that competition. So that's where I think it was a great signing. And hopefully he delivers the value. The value is if he can give you 50 games and then win a bunch of them, then that's worth it. But it's also that stability in that position where they haven't had a lot of, based on injuries. Cam Talbot signs there. I love the signing, or the trade, I guess, of Talbot coming, but it didn't work out because of the injuries. He was hurt 3 different times. So you started the season last year with him missing the first 5 weeks, and you're like, God, they're already behind it. So that was, I felt that was a struggle. So both these guys, if they're healthy, that's first and foremost what I'm hoping for to start the season.
Sens fans, football is back in full swing with another week of epic games. And who's got you covered on the action for every single one of them? DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers can bet $5 on football and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Nobody's missing out on the action this season. All DraftKings customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every game day this September. So get in on the NFL Week 2 action with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use code THPN, that is THPN, to sign up. New customers can bet just $5 and take home $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777. Visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms for eligibility, terms, and responsible game resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Yeah, and we had the Athletics' Aaron Portzline on our show like about a month or 2 ago, and he was saying that ever since Korpisalo went and got that hip surgery, he looked much better in net, was more fluid, and he wasn't just, making athletic saves. He was actually being in the right spot and looked a lot more technically sound. And he mentioned the maturity. He told us little anecdotes about Korpisalo also being a fun guy away from the rink and being into like Finnish death metal or something, which was hilarious. So I think that might change up the locker room tunes for the boys. We'll see, but I thought that was kind of neat. But I also liked that Korpisalo and Forsberg have history, and and they played together in Cleveland. They won together there. Yeah. And so I think that breeds kind of a healthy competition versus like, maybe that guy's gunning for my job, or am I gunning for his job, or like, what's the relationship going to be? They know where both of each other stand. I think they both know that they've fought adversity and want to fight for like having that reputation in the league. So I kind of like the mentality that that builds as well between the two guys.
Yeah, you're right. The history, but keep in mind when you're, everyone wants to play. So even when I was a backup, it's me and Mika Kiprusoff, me and Grant Fear, me and Roberto Luongo. I know
who are those guys? I don't know those guys.
I know I'm not playing, but you still want to. But it's about the relationship. And if they have a history and it's healthy, where it's like, hey, you know what? DJ wants me to play tomorrow. You're going on the back-to-back. Like, if it's a healthy relationship, then all it does is bode well for the team. So I think, and they're both mature. Like, they're not 22 and not, insecure about their role at the NHL level. They're both NHL goaltenders that want the net. So it's a healthy competition. It's supportive. It's not cutting each other out or anything like that. It's just like, you go in the net, hey, I want you to play well. When I'm in there, I expect you to be cheering me on, and the team is better for it. So I think it'll be a great tandem. And the fact that they know each other already, and yes, the death metal and that, there was a player, this defenseman for the Edmonton Oilers years ago, Yanni Niinema, was like this death metal guy. Like, maybe Mark Methot too. I think Meth is a big metal guy and stuff. Like, I love like Metallica and stuff like that. Like, I don't go, too far off the ledge there. I think people know that I grew up like one of my best friends is Chad from Nickelback, and I've been I'm an Alberta boy, and
I did not
Chad,
know that.
No, wait, what?
Dude.
yeah, I was just with them, like literally, like I don't know, they were here on the weekend. I'm literally like they're like Chatty and I are like
Chatty, whoa.
well, that's me and him. Like the other night, we're just like
Oh my God. Oh
yeah, like I was there. I'm like I say, it's weird. Nickelback, it's come full circle, right? Like it's people either love them or hate them, and now they were here for that movie TIFF.
Nickelback Love to Hate. They were doing
Yeah,
TIFF.
Yeah.
Oh my
So
God, I'm a huge Nickelback fan, so I'm just
yeah.
Oh wow.
There you go. I was side stage the other night with with the band, but I know them very well. I've known them for 20 years.
Damn.
20 years.
God.
We've been very close, and yeah, like I say, like that. But the point being is like I love rock music. I love all the stuff, but like I go to like Metallica, and kind of stop there. Where like the Finnish guys, the Swedish guys, and that it's like I don't even know. I couldn't name like a Slipknot, pretty gritty and heavy, like that type of stuff. But I don't have the ear for it. Put it that way. So, anyways, I'm rambling.
I noticed.
No, that was the best ramble ever.
Yeah. That was good.
I'm just like at this point, like a Senstennial is now Nickelback adjacent.
Oh, like yeah, exactly. You're friend of they're friends of the show now.
This is big. This is huge.
Yeah, I think you guys may have known that I had Nickelback on a few of my masks.
No,
I think.
Oh my God,
I did. Yeah, I don't know if I have a few.
Sorry, I'm going through it here. This is crazy.
There.
This turning into the Senstennial featuring Nickelback. We should get Chad in here.
Yeah, Jamie, if you can get Chad on the show, that'd be huge. I mean,
he doesn't do. I don't know where they are.
What are Chad's thoughts on the Ottawa Senators?
Yeah, exactly. I'll get him. And he's a big hockey guy, but he's funny. He's got it's well documented. He has a rink in his house.
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I've skated on that. Like it's an underground rink. Let me see if I got.
Well, I noticed. So I'm a drummer myself, so I noticed you had the Gretsch shirt on, which obviously
I noticed that too.
Good taste in drumming brands.
So I'll show you. This is my jersey room in my house here. So if I go, this is where I keep like the teams I played for.
Yeah.
And masks and pads, kind of one of everything. But see here, like, hold on a second. See, I had like Nickelback on.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. That's amazing.
Yeah, I had and then this was like my Florida one. It was like silver side up there.
Oh, that's wicked.
Yeah. So
that was the one with How You Remind Me.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
So anyways, yeah. And so you want to talk about music? I have some of Chad's guitars and stuff like that here in my music room.
Love it.
So, yeah. So, anyways, let's get back to hockey.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, on that note, that's a good little intermission segment. We'll save that for. I don't know.
My goodness.
That'll be some good content there, Jamie. Thank you.
There we go. There we go.
So I was going to talk to you about one of the more controversial off-season moments for the Ottawa Senators. And of course, that was shipping out Alex DeBrincat, who didn't want to sign long-term in Ottawa and, wanted to go home to Michigan. Fair enough. So Ottawa trades him to Detroit. In exchange, they get a couple of draft picks, one of them being either Detroit or Boston's first rounder next year. They get Sebrango, the prospect there, and they get Dominik Kubalik. Now I'm going to kind of like give you a double question here. DeBrincat basically departs. They bring in Kubalik. Now they also then go out not too much long after, and they bring in Vladimir Tarasenko. And I know you touched on Tarasenko a bit, but does the addition of those guys in Kubalik and Tarasenko, does that help make up for the loss of what Alex DeBrincat was expected to provide in Ottawa before he had the season he did?
It does on two different levels for me because it's by committee. So if you were expecting 40, even though what did DeBrincat had last year, 27, I think.
Yeah.
So Kubalik has scored 20 in this league, 20 I believe it was.
He had 30 goals rookie season.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I remember early on he had some success. He's got a big shot. He's a good body, big body. I look at Tarasenko as, in the right scenario, this guy is still like a killer with the puck, like a shooter, right? So
yeah,
let's just say on the downside he gets 25 too, because I think 25 is a bad year for him if he's placed in the right situation. Kubalik's 25. There's 50 goals there, and it's spread out through your lineup. It's not just asking in your second line, plug one guy in there with DeBrincat and Giroux. Like I think it's going to be more by committee because it adds to the depth of your top nine. That's the way I look at it, because you're now seeing, and if this is a copycat league, look what Vegas did. It was like they were 4 strong. So the fourth line was just killing teams, and they were scoring, but they were hemming teams in. If this is a copycat league, Vegas showed that you need depth to win. And it's not just, hey, the top 6 have to produce and the bottom 6 have to go out there and give us energy and be physical and stuff. It's like they got to score now too. So I think it improves your depth. And again, with Alex DeBrincat and it was his choice. And I think for the most part, everyone's like, hey, you know what? Go home. You can't bag on him for that. Then what you're doing is replacing his goals, hopefully, with 2 guys and adding to the depth of your group. So that's the way I see it. And they're both very dynamic in their own way. Like I say, Kubalik is a bigger body. I think Tarasenko is just a threat. There was a time there where Tarasenko, for me, was one of the more dangerous shooters in the league. Mm-hmm. He's got a heavy shot. Now, I think he had injuries, and then he looked a little heavy-footed sometimes, or maybe he was out of shape or whatever. But if he's in shape, and again, it comes down to, what if Claude Giroux starts to give him some pretty good looks? What if Giroux is a really skilled passer. So, maybe he clicks with somebody on that team where it's like, okay, I've got some chemistry. I'm feeling good about my game. But you've got now some more weapons and more options there. So I don't see any downside in a scenario where it's like, hey, we couldn't, or we did, this guy didn't want to be here. So we made the best of we'll call it a bad situation. And they ended up picking up 2 good players, to help with the depth of the group.
Now, I actually wanted to ask you one more on Tarasenko. And it's kind of like, where do you envision him fitting in role-wise? Like, obviously, he's going to be motivated being on a 1-year deal. I think he's a guy, who probably wanted longer term this summer, ends up getting that 1-year deal. Now it's going to be like, hey, I'm going to prove that I deserve getting maybe more term, more money on the next contract. So, taking that into account and taking into his goal scoring ability and all that, where do you think he really fits in on this Ottawa roster?
Well, I mean, it depends on health. Okay, so are we assuming Shane Pinto's in the lineup or not? That's the other thing, right?
Yeah, so, hypothetically, I know a lot of people have been saying Matthew Joseph, maybe because of his contract, Ottawa would give up a draft pick or something to move him out so they could sign Pinto. I've seen some people now starting to say that maybe flipping Kubalik and so that you're not messing with the chemistry of the roster and signing Pinto that way. But I don't know. It's up to you. Yeah. You can make the shot here. It's your hypothetical.
Well, my hypotheticals, would I like to see Tarasenko play top 6 minutes? Yes, because I think early on, you've got to get skilled guys engaged and feeling confident in their game. So, do you go, I don't know, Giroux, Stützle, Tarasenko? Do you go, Tkachuk, Stützle, Tarasenko? Tarasenko's a left shot, but he can play on his offside, right? Where's Norris going to fit that? Probably in that 2 hole there. So do you put Tkachuk and Norris with Batherson and go Giroux, Stützle, Tarasenko, and maybe go Kubalik? If Pinto is available to you, then you have Kubalik, Pinto, and Joseph, something like that. The fourth line is going to be McEwen, Kastelik, and, does Ridley Gregg make the team, or, Parker Kelly? I don't know who there's going to be some mix and match there, but I think that top nine, like, I just think Tarasenko, like, do you try him with Stützle right away and just see if you could have some chemistry? Now, I don't know. Again, I want to see the pace of Tarasenko. That's my biggest concern, because I don't want Stützle to be slowed down. Although, Brady Tkachuk's a big body, but Tkachuk knew exactly how to play with him. Like, if you look at some of their set plays, Tkachuk would stretch the zone to the far blue line. He'd get hit and, pop it. And Stützle knew how to play off of him. Plus, Brady was so good at creating space out there because he's just this big body that gets in everybody's way. He's knocking people around. So Stützle could step into some of those lanes, right? I'm curious to see how Josh Norris, really missed the full season. How's his timing? How's everything going to feel for him? How is he going to be confident taking draws or, stuff with that shoulder injury, coming off of that? So there is some question marks, but coming back to where does Tarasenko fit? I would try him right up kind of with, we'll call it the big boys, whether that's Giroux and Stützle or Tkachuk and Stützle, just to see if he could, either keep up with pace or find that chemistry where it's like, okay, if Brady's going to create some room, Stützle can grab the puck and I'll get available for a one-timer, or same type of thing. If it's Tkachuk, and Norris and Tarasenko, and maybe Batherson goes up with Stützle and Giroux, like you mix and match, but I'd like to see him top six, put it that way.
Yeah. Well, Jamie, it's been awesome having you, and I'll field the last question here for you. Dorion magically did it again and signed Jake Sanderson to an 8x8, that lovely number that we love to see. Some people have called it an overpay, and other people have said it's going to age like a fine wine. Where do you sit on that spectrum?
I'm on the fine wine side because I just think I'm watching him, knowing the family. I'll give you some quick backstory. Like, I grew up in St. Albert, Alberta. Jeff and his wife, Ellen, which is Jake's mom.
Yeah.
I went to high school with them. Like, I know Ellen and I know Jeff. They're awesome people. Jake was born in Montana. Well, that's where they had their summer home, right? So it's just like and he grew up a lot in Calgary. Like, he's a great kid, and I think he's a special player. Like, not just, hey, this guy's a good player. I think he's special. And I think there's a chance that he becomes your number one defenseman. And this isn't a shot at Thomas Chabot. It's more about the capabilities of Jake Sanderson. Because Sanderson, he can skate with the league. There's no doubt about that. He's an elite skater. But the one thing with young defensemen, they struggle sometimes, is actually playing defense in the league. Jake, he's really efficient. He's a really good defenseman right now. And he just turned 20. Like, I think it's 20 or 21. 21, I think.
Yeah, 21.
But, so he's just going to get better. So now you've got a 4-pack. I don't even know how that's going to lay out. But if you go, Chabot and Zub and
I think they were going to do Chabot, Chychrun, and Sanderson, Zub.
Either way, like, that's a pretty damn good.
That's a crazy top four.
Love it.
That's knock on wood for health. Now all of a sudden you got Brandstrom, who really I thought took a step last year and just looked a lot more comfortable in his skin. I remember there were times on broadcast where I was like, God, this guy looks busy out there and he's not doing much, like in his first couple years, where it's like it all looked good and
jitterbug.
It's like, but just nothing. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, the light went on. He now knows his spacing. He was using his body. He was blocking shots. I thought Hamonic did a really good job as a mentor role for some of those young guys, including Jake Sanderson. So, you look at that, especially the top four, those guys can chew a lot of minutes. You're getting back. I think that the contract is amazing because you are getting, it might be technically an overpay because they're like, oh, he's a 30-point guy last year in 74 or whatever game, 77. But what if he's a 45, 50-point guy consistently and plays in every scenario for you and plays like we talk about minutes, like with Shabbat being a 25, 26, 27, Sanderson's going to chew up a lot of those minutes. So you can have them both in the 22 to 25 range.
Yeah.
And there's half your game right there.
Exactly.
So I think it's,
and that's not even counting Chychrun, who was the best defenseman on the Coyotes for his entire career. So
and had Norris votes. Like,
yeah. And there's, the thing too is there's your option. So if you're going to go 4 forwards and a D, or you're going to go 2D on the power play, like how you're going to look at, like Chychrun's got a bomb for a shot, like a bomb. So is he going to fit in? Is he going to be a first power play, or a Shabbat, or a Sanderson? Like, to me, Sanderson has some real patience with the puck, and he can skate himself in and out of trouble. Shabbat is a great skater, but he's a little bit more robotic with the puck. So they've got options back there to do whatever they can and whatever they want, depending on what chemistry they develop. But I think everything in today's eyes is an overpay if you don't have success and you don't put up these numbers. But honestly, Jake Sanderson at $8 million, we're going to be having this conversation, I don't know when, being like, man, that's a steal. This kid's a superstar. So that's how I feel about Jake Sanderson.
Oh,
well,
amazing.
we love the positivity and optimism, getting us even more hyped for this coming season. So thank you again for joining us tonight. We're extremely excited for the season, and it was really nice having you back to help us preview it. So is there anything you want to mention before we take off for the night?
No, just thanks for having me. And it looks like I'm there. I'm calling a few preseason games, which is in Ottawa, that 29th, and then in Sydney, what was that, Nova Scotia? Sydney, Nova Scotia. Yeah, and Halifax. But their opening night is at October 14th. It's a Saturday.
All right, we'll be in the house.
I'll be there. So I'm excited. So looking forward to seeing everybody, and I think it'll be a fun one. So should be a good season.
Awesome. Well, thanks again,
Thanks, Jamie.
You bet. Thanks for having me, guys. You bet. Take care.